Welcome to the latest episode of First Word in Sport. This morning we have seen England announce a 35-man squad for the World Cup. A few shocks in there, James. Anything catch your eye?
Yeah, so these 35-man squad for these two friendlies, bit of a caveat, isn't there, really? So Tuchel has said that 10 or 11 players won't be joining next week to play the Uruguay friendly a week tonight, March the 27th. And then he'll drop 10. So I'd imagine it's those players that are playing Champions League, Europa League and Conference League. I can't believe that Trent Alexander-Arnold isn't in that squad. I see Ollie Watkins is not in the squad either. There's a couple of... I'm not surprised like Harry Maguire is in the squad or Kobe Mainu. We talked about it, didn't we, 3-4 weeks ago. Now that those two players, now they're back in playing for Man United, would be good additions to the squad. A few surprises, but it's 35. It's not really a big deal now getting into the England squad. If you can't get into it, you're definitely not going to the World Cup this summer.
So a couple of them sort of just logically make sense. We've touched on Lewis Hall almost every week recently. It feels inevitable that he will be starting left back for England. He certainly should be, and obviously he's now been properly called up to the squad. There are a few weird ones. I don't really understand Calvert-Lewin's of the world, if I'm honest. I hardly see him as the future of England, but maybe I'm being slightly harsh on him with that. He's had a decent enough season, but in terms of looking forwards, to the World Cups further away, seems slightly odd. But as you say, I think the big one is Trent not being there. Genuinely world-class player. We see how much Liverpool have missed him actually this year, if you want to see his value. And it's more on the managers, I think. I could understand Southgate not being able to use him because he simply doesn't have the tactical acumen to do that. Tuchel, a little bit more surprising, but I guess he has had injuries and stuff like that. But even so, I think it's not ideal when you leave your genuinely top quality players at home.
Yeah, I mean, with Calvert-Lewin and things like that, they're only going to play the Uruguay game, and it's just looking to see, giving Kane a bit of a rest. Obviously, he had a slight injury, Harry Kane as well. But yeah, 35-man squad, international friendlies. It's like they play Uruguay, as I said, a week tonight, and they play Japan on Tuesday the 31st. So he's never going to work with the 35. He'll just work with the 2022 players. So swap 10 in, 10 out kind of thing for those two friendlies.
So one of the interesting ones is Watkins. I mean, you touched on it briefly. And it is big because he was England's sort of second choice striker after Kane, or has been. And so for him to drop out of the squad entirely, I don't know if it's just he's been dropped or whether there may be something injury related there. I'm convinced for Villa that he hasn't been fully fit all season. And, we touched on it a few weeks ago. His current form has been absolutely abysmal. And, if this squad is picked on form, he doesn't deserve to be there, even in a big squad. But then there's also a lot of other players there who you'd question whether they really deserve to be there either. Like Solanke, he's obviously been out injured, but he hasn't really shown huge amounts of form since coming back. So it's always a tricky one in terms of how injuries factor into these things. But Ollie Watkins' actual form has been terrible.
Yeah, and on the other ones, I like James Garner calling up. I do like him as a player. I don't think he's top class, but he's been very good for Everton. Filled in at right back at times as well.
And left back.
And left back, yeah. But left back, I think you're fine with O'Reilly and Hall, as we've banged on about recently. I mean, John Stones, he's living off one good season in his career. Shouldn't be anywhere near that England squad. I can't believe Jared Branthwaite hasn't been looked at or called up. And Tomori at AC Milan again. I mean, what's all that about? We know he's not top class or international class. Few surprises, but Tuchel does his own way. So he makes big decisions. He's not scared of annoying big players. So let's see. It's all about the World Cup. Starts on the 11th of June. England's first game is the 17th of June when they play Croatia. Their next game will be against Ghana on the 23rd of June, and their final group game is against Panama on the 27th of June. So there's England's group.
Right, should we have a look at this week's Champions or European action that we've just had? The second legs of the last 16 matches. So on Tuesday night, we had Arsenal comfortably beating Leverkusen. Arsenal actually turned up. They had an intensity and energy about them. Brilliant goal by Eze, actually, and a nice finish from Rice. It always helps. I mean, if you score these good goals like those, it does help. Although, having said that, the Leverkusen keeper had made a few saves before that anyway. I mean, that was a bit more like the sort of Arsenal you want to see more often. Now, I think I'm always torn with this in that I think the German teams are really poor. So, you know, how good were Arsenal relative to how they, say, play in the Premier League? But you still have to go out there, perform. There's always a bit of jeopardy when you've only drawn the first leg. And they, you know, job done.
Yeah, it was quietly impressive by Arsenal, even so they were expected to go through. Still a lot of pressure on them, and it was their best attacking performance for a while. Heltzy scored 2 really good goals. And yeah, fair play to them, job done, move on into the next round, quarterfinals, when they have the easiest tie going out of the other 3.
So the other games on Tuesday, we had Chelsea getting walloped by Paris Saint-Germain 3-0. It's always going to be tough when you're 2-0 down after 14 minutes, particularly when you're chasing a 3-goal deficit. I mean, that Barcola goal was brilliant. Let's talk about Mr. Rafinha. I mean, we've touched on him before. I think the highlight reel for this match from Rafinha was him giving Garnacho a note as he was coming on as a substitute. And it wasn't just a little note, it was a very detailed note when they were, they're 8-2 down on aggregate at the time with 5 minutes to go. I mean, a lot of people are questioning what on earth could possibly have been on that piece of paper that made any sense. I guess it's just about being professional in those situations. If you would have done it when you were tied in the game, then I guess you should do it when you need 6 goals in 5 minutes. But it made him open to ridicule once again. It's becoming a bit of a habit with him.
He's just way out of his depth. He's just a puppet for Bodie and co. He shouldn't be in charge of Chelsea. He's got no credentials to be in charge of Chelsea. And if they don't finish top 5 in the Premier League this season, he won't be in charge, in my view, at the start of the next season in the Premier League. He's completely out of his depth. He was hamstrung a little bit on Tuesday night with his team selection. Obviously, no Reece James hamstring injury. Gusto not available. So he played 3 at the back. Went man marking against PSG again. And just got totally exposed. PSG have looked an awful lot better with Dembele back up front as a focal point. The 2 wingers plus Desiree Doué came off the bench. Their movement is just fantastic. All got a first touch. They were impressive, but Chelsea were an absolute mess. And yeah, the 3 at the back, he kind of had no other option, but the players didn't know what they were doing. And then after 60 minutes, he's got a lot of ridicule to say for this, not just for the tactics after 80 odd minutes, taking off his best players in Fernandes and Palmer. I can understand it. The tie is over. It's absolutely over. He's protecting them for this week's game against Everton, I believe, isn't it, tomorrow?
They're away at Everton.
They're away at Everton. So I know Everton have got a bad record at home this season, but it's still a tough game for them to go. The tie's over. There's no need for these players to carry on running. And just the game's over. I'm sorry the fans have got to realise this, that the bigger picture is them getting top 5 this season. The worrying point, last bit on Chelsea, is Enzo Fernandez comments afterwards. That doesn't look like a player to me who wants to hang around at that club if they're not Champions League next season. And we've talked about it before. Cole Palmer's been noises in the last couple of months about him being still unsettled in London. And Caicedo. You're going to have to give these boys big new contracts, considering you gave your captain, Reece James, a huge new 6-year contract this time last week. So there are some big issues at Chelsea. Not just that. We might as well talk about the elephant in the room as we're talking about Chelsea now. They've got away with absolute murder They really have. That £10.5 million fine, whatever it is, for the agent fees that they pay to undercover agents, or not undercover, sorry, but buying all those players under Abramovich, under Jose Mourinho, with not Douglas Luiz, David Luiz, and Eden Hazard's a big one. £10 million for that, because they had said, Bodie's come out and said, here's all the details. Absolute disgrace. The Premier League have just completely bottled that big time.
Well, I think there's a few interesting aspects to that Chelsea case, and it's always the worry, and it's a worry with Manchester City if they get found guilty as well. And obviously, one of the differences here is that Chelsea did put their hands up when Bowley and co took over and said, "Look, we've found some stuff in the books that isn't right." And there is provisions there for mitigating circumstances as well, in terms of the way they have declared that. So one of the problems when the takeover happened, there wasn't much time because it was obviously being sold from Roman, and what ended up happening is not all the due diligence that would normally be done could be done, and that's why they ended up putting so much money into 150 million into a separate fund and things like that. I think one of the big problem is that, and I've said this with regard to City, is you end up with these knock-on consequences to these types of things. So you look at something like City in terms of all the sponsorship deals they had years and years ago, which were inflated fees. It's not that year where you get the benefit always. It's all the subsequent knock-on years. So if you look at Chelsea, it's not just being able to sign Hazard, who was going to go to Man United otherwise. It's you obviously get all the Champions League victories, winning the Champions League. You get all the Premier League titles. You're then able to sell him for a huge fee as well. And so a simple decision of paying agents' fees off the books, the knock-on consequences to that decision of being able to do that are huge. And the reality is, it was a deliberate act that Chelsea paid these agents off the books because they knew that they wanted to conceal where that money was coming from. Now, apparently the Premier League looked at it and said, well, if that money had been paid, they wouldn't have breached PSR in those days. But that's not necessarily the way that they should be looking at it. And it's just a really weird situation that the punishment is so pathetic. And I think this could almost be a tipping point, and the same will happen with Manchester City, in that these are types of things where people just go, enough's enough. If people are just going to be allowed to cheat brazenly, admit it, not get punished, then what are we even doing here?
Correct, 100%. And this report, or the decision, was made in November, by the way. Have you seen that? So they announced it this week, so no clubs can appeal it. So there's no appeal at all. It's been finalised. No other clubs can appeal it. It's just absolutely. I mean, the FA are going to release their findings as well. Probably get another slap on the wrist, another fine for Chelsea. But as you said, there's an asterisk next to all their titles because of the Hazard one.
But this isn't the first thing they've done wrong either, right? This
Exactly,
isn't the first set of incidents that under this Roman sort of era, where they've broken the rules. Obviously, when Lampard was there, they got the transfer ban for a couple of years. And I think this is where it gets concerning, is you have a transfer ban already, right, which implies a whole series of nefarious activities previously. And then obviously with them, you've had all the selling hotels and all these other weird and wonderful, like women's teams, all these other weird and wonderful things. They're continually pushing things to the limit and over at times, and knowingly as well. And why wouldn't they just keep going? If you can keep getting away with it. I mean, the problem is it just sets such a bad precedent, and I'm not surprised that Everton fans, Forest fans, Leicester fans are all just looking at this, just going, they talk about a 2 or 3 tier system in the Premier League, and was it Masters came out and said as such not that long ago, but It's not good, and you do feel for these other clubs.
Damaging the product, surely it is. But yeah, Richard Masters, the Premier League chief executive, I think he is. He's under huge pressure. But yeah, there's nothing more I can really say apart from they've got away with it. We all know that, and we all know that City are going to get away with it now as well.
Well, I thought it was interesting. There was a big Premier League meeting between all the various chairmen or whatever this week, and
Yeah,
apparently
yesterday.
the Chelsea stuff wasn't mentioned as a topic of conversation, which again seems extraordinary.
Should we move on to the other games anyway? And I've talked about that.
Obviously, Man City lost to Real Madrid yet again. They keep getting knocked out by. And it doesn't even matter which Real Madrid team turns up. The big moment in that game was the Bernardo Silva sending off, and it's fair enough. You can't really complain. I think it was handball on the line. He obviously killed any hopes that City have. Just a really poor two-legged effort from City, but unfortunately, it's not a huge surprise.
He's massively underachieved in Champions League, Guardiola, over his whole career. He won 2 at Barcelona, but he did have the best club side ever in the history of football. All-time great there. Did nothing at Bayern Munich. Went there, got embarrassed in the Champions League, and he's won 1 title in nearly enough 10 years at Man City now. Surprising team selection again. Dropped Semenyo, dropped Mark Gay. I can understand the Mark Gay decision because they wanted to play as a high line and they wanted Kusanov pace up against Vinny Jr. And I've been very critical of Kusanov on and off this pod in recent months since he signed. He was actually quite impressive, but it's just all about pace with him. But he was decent-ish. They started quite well, City, but once that Bernardo Silva handball red card, found it funny. He was celebrating with Donnarumma, going, "Yeah, it's hit me on the chest." Why are these players lying now? Because VAR is always going to look at you. So, and then from that point onwards, 1-1, it was game over, really.
I mean, it's funny you mention that. We see it so often. You've got players contesting fouls saying, "Well, I didn't touch him, and then you see the replay like 10 seconds later when it's absolutely clattered the player. And, as you say, it's like these players don't realise that everyone can see that they're just cheating. And, it does seem weird. Let's go on to the Wednesday. Towards the other game on Tuesday night, obviously we had the Bayern Munich, Atalanta. No,
Sporting Lisbon 5, Bodo Glimt 0.
Bodo Glimt out. Sad times, James.
Fair play, Sporting. I mean, you don't often see a 3-0 recovery and then 5-0 in extra time. Yeah, so Sporting, yeah, brilliant. Sad to see that Bodo Glimt are gone, but they'll be set up now for a few years because of the financial rewards they've got reaching the last 16 of the Champions League.
Coincidence, James, that they're returning to their domestic football now?
Yeah, probably, but I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, they'll have a great summer anyway in their domestic league, Tipper League, and I think it's called in Norway.
And then let's talk about the early game on Wednesday, Barcelona-Newcastle. I thought Newcastle played pretty well in those early stages of that game, all said and done. And when they got it back to 2-2, they had chances. That next 5-10 minutes, Barcelona looked all over the place. And if Newcastle could have been a bit more clinical, it could have been a very different story. But towards the end of that first half, and obviously the big moment was the penalty, for which I'm still surprised Trippier didn't get sent off, but that's beside the point. Didn't really matter in the end. And Newcastle got absolutely destroyed in that second half. Some of the defending was woeful.
Both sides of the defending. We knew that Newcastle would try and hit Barcelona on counter-attack, and that's what they did. They got in behind them very easily. Pace with Barnes, Alanga and Gordon. They played well in that first half, 40 minutes, and then both teams gave away silly goals, but Dan Burn for the second goal, what's he doing? Glenn Hoddle, have a word with yourself. He's gone. If he stays on the penalty area, Dan Burn, the Barcelona team, the player's offside, but he drops back a couple of yards And then the penalty at the end, Trippier, they didn't send him off because the ruling was that Rafinha wasn't going to score. But how do you
We
know
don't
that
know
kind of
that.
thing?
You can't. Right? What absolute nonsense! You can't say in the same way that you could almost say that. Oh, if you didn't think he was going to get to it, why give a penalty in the first place? Right? As soon as you give that penalty, you're implying that he was able to. It was stopping him being able to make an effort at the ball. If you're not having allowed to make a true effort at the ball, you can't say whether he would have got there or not.
Yeah, it was a strange decision, and
I mean, it didn't make any difference in the end, but I don't really understand that ruling.
yeah, and then Newcastle just capitulated really in the second half. They didn't get hold of the ball, and the Barcelona got hold of the ball, and Newcastle didn't really do anything. I mean, is it the end of the road for Eddie Howe? Because it's very hard for them to get top five this year. And Jason Tyndall, have a word with yourself, man. You're just a failed manager at Bournemouth. You're Eddie Howe's sidekick. Sit down and behave like a normal human being, please, at times. You're winding me up.
He can't help himself.
Yeah, I know. It's just frustrating.
So, in terms of Eddie Howe, I actually think they'll persist with him. I used to be of the opinion I thought they might get rid of him. I think they'll persist with him for at least another season. Partly because I don't know how many great options there are out there. In terms of this year, so one interesting aspect to this year is sixth place could get Champions League in certain circumstances. So if Villa finish top five and win the Europa League, sixth place would get a Champions League spot.
Well, Newcastle haven't got any more games. They've only got 8 more Premier League games, haven't they? So they could go on to it. Yeah, Newcastle. But if they don't, we talk about Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes. Let's talk about him, obviously.
I see there's a lot of chat about Bruno going to United. I mean, that's the sort of kick in the teeth that your Villas and your Newcastles are getting all the time at the moment with the way the finances and all the PSR and that type of stuff works. That you can have a team like United who just keep spending 200 million every year, can come along and take your best players. It's just tiresome.
Yeah, and the Newcastle summer signings have been bang average, haven't they? Visa and Rotomado didn't even come off the bench in the Champions League last 16 game, but there you go.
Comfortable win for Liverpool, 4-0, bit of a battering.
Could have easily been 10. Galatasaray poor. Liverpool changed their formation. Who knew that? Don't ask a 33-year-old inside forward to play out as a right winger. So they went 4-3-1-2. Got Vert and Salah closer to Ekitike. Yeah, could have been 10-0. Galatasaray were average. I mean, Osimhen obviously broke his arm with non-entry in the first half. And then that horrible injury to Noah Lang where his finger got caught in the LED lightings when he got shoved in the back by Jones kind of thing. Galatasaray are threatening to sue Liverpool and UEFA for it. Calm down, lads. Yeah, hasn't changed my opinion on Slot. We know that Slot's not going to be there next season. So, I mean, there are a couple of people who've talked about. They've spoken to Sebastian Hoeneß at Stuttgart, the Stuttgart manager. They've spoken to him. They spoke to Fabregas in November as well, according to reports.
I mean, Stuttgart went out last night, so I don't know if that will affect the conversations that they have with him or not.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a comfortable. They played well, Liverpool. Don't get me wrong, but put it in perspective.
Can we be back to slot in?
No, not at all. Once every dog has their day, kind of thing. Just some news on Liverpool this morning. It's come out that FSG won't be buying a second club at the moment. So where does that leave Michael Edwards? He's only got a year left in his contract. 2027, his contract ends. And there's been rumours this week, quite strong rumours this week, that Richard Hughes could be on the way to Saudi to head up Al Idial, I think it is. They've been taken over. And he would be their head of their sporting director, whatever it is, a bigger job. Obviously, correct, like a lot more pay.
That's a life-changing amount of money, that sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. So, big upheaval for Liverpool in the summer again.
It's all right. I'm sure you'll spend 500 million to make everything all right again.
We've got a lot of money, a lot of players to sell as well.
Final game involving English teams was Tottenham, Atletico Madrid. Tottenham got a win. Ended up winning 3-2. I mean, it gets to a point where it's all fairly meaningless once the tie's over. As soon as Alvarez got that equaliser, it felt like the tie was pretty much over. It's good. It's important for Tottenham, I think, ahead of the Forest game on Sunday that they had the draw at Liverpool. They followed it up with a win in this game. The context of it, in some respects, doesn't matter that much. It's just been so long since they've actually won a game of football that I think they'll just be grateful for any small slither of hope. And that game gave him a little bit. It also takes a little bit of pressure off Tudor as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just winning games breeds confidence, and any small little wins they can do stops the noise of not 1 in 7 kind of thing. So, just a final point: Julian Alvarez is a heck of a good player. He really is. If you can, it's a brilliant finish, and if you can get him out of Atletico Madrid, some team, then they're going to get a heck of a good player.
So Bayern Munich won the other game. I mean, it was over after the first leg, very, very handsomely. I think, what was it, 46? I think it was 46 goals across the 16 games.
68.
Was it 58?
Like that?
Or 46?
68, apparently.
68, that's the one. I couldn't find, it's a crazy number. More than 4 per game. I mean, it helps when you play against the Chelsea and Manchester City defences, and Newcastle.
And Tottenham.
It's not been a great round, should we say, for the English teams, to put mildly. So only Arsenal and Liverpool going through.
Yeah, it's 2 milestones as well. Mohammed Salah 50 goals in the Champions League, first African to do that. So he beat the likes of Drogba, Eto'o, George Weah back in the day, and Harry Kane gets 50, first English individual to get 50 goals. His second goal, by the way, on Wednesday night was just absolutely fantastic. He's a superstar, Harry Kane. He is making goal scoring look very easy, and it's not at all. So yeah, two big things. Another takeaway, I know it's a big bugbear of yours as well. When the game's ended on the Chelsea PSG and the Barcelona Newcastle, the referee just blew up at 90 minutes. Just didn't bother playing any injury time. Just went, game over. 90 minutes.
Oh, one other thing to note. I see Tonali got injured. Now, it may not be a muscle injury, but I say no smoke without fire with most injuries in terms of fatigue, just generally. But
so the draws are, we all know the draws. It's Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Sporting versus Arsenal on the 7th of April, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and PSG on the 8th, and then the return legs are the week after. So if you play Wednesday, play Tuesday, still because of the old TV rights. That's the reason why they do it.
So Europa League last night, Midtjylland Forest was the early game. Forest actually made lots of changes prior to this game, which is what they should have done in the first leg. And Forest played pretty well for large parts of that game. They were comfortable. Midtjylland scored a great goal out of nothing, really. Ended up going to penalties. Midtjylland's penalties were... I mean, the first couple were slightly unfortunate if you hit the post. But, I mean, obviously the third one was just comical. And, to not hit the target with your 3 penalties... Not great, is it?
No, and VAR worked because Ryan Yates thought he was onside, and if there was no VAR, they would have gone through on that. So yeah, when it's applied properly, VAR works. Yeah, it's Forest making 9 changes, as you said. Let's bring their players on. They need to stop giving Morgan Gibbs White penalties, by the way, because he's lost his complete bottom on penalties. Nearly missed yesterday, but yeah, they're through to a quarter-final, Forest. Again, I think that was a big for them as well, by the way. Just because of the game on Sunday at Tottenham. If they'd went out on that, it's a confidence, as you said, about Spurs as well.
Well, the only problem for them is they obviously have 2 extra games now, which isn't ideal.
But maybe they'll rest it. Depending on this game on Sunday, what they'll do is their squad, yeah.
Villa beat Lille 2-0 last night. Good to see John McGinn back on the score sheet. I thought Sancho looked quite good last night. He's interesting because there is clearly a very talented player in there, and he's done all right in recent weeks actually. So it's not just last night. You're seeing glimpses of him, and I think sometimes it does just take players time. He's obviously going to be a free agent, or likely to be a free agent in the summer, because United are unlikely to trigger. He could have a 1-year extension, but they won't trigger that given the wages he's on. But he's being linked with a move back to Borussia Dortmund. I'd be surprised if Villa don't make some kind of a move for him as well, if he feels settled. But he seems to get on all right with his teammates and stuff as well. But it was just a really professional performance from Villa actually. It was very controlled, and it was actually good to see Lindelof given a bit more game time, him and Torres at the back. Who knew, James, that when Villa play Torres, Maatsen, they don't concede goals? Who knew? When Tyrone Mings isn't there. Interesting.
You know you'll be back this weekend, though, go home to West Ham on Sunday.
I can't wait. So, in terms of that Europa League, Villa have Roma, who... No, sorry.
Bologna.
Bologna, who Villa have already beaten a couple of times recently. That was a bit of a shocker yesterday for Roma, because I was expecting Marlon to come back and haunt Villa in the quarterfinals, but not to be. And then Conference League, Palace yet again struggled.
Go back to Europa League there. So you got Bologna, Gaspari, I haven't pronounced his name right, is the ex-Atalanta coach who won the Europa League a couple of years ago in Dublin against Leverkusen, Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen. So it's a different manager. It's not Thiago Motta, I think he was the manager at the time, Bologna, when he beat them. So the other quarterfinals just run through them. Braga played Betis. Freiburg played Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo, I think, beat Lyon, who won the group, didn't they?
So they won 2-0. They ended up having 2 players sent off in the end. But they were second favourites to win after Villa. So that was quite big for them to get knocked out.
And then Forest play Porto. So it could be an all-English semi-final, Villa Forest, if they two go through.
Yeah, so Porto took Stuttgart out, I think it was last night. So
yeah.
Conference League, joke of a competition, but Palace limped to an extra time win against Larnaca. I mean, we've touched on this a few times now, but Glasner against these rubbish... I cannot say this enough. The red flags that is just with Glasner, I think have to be there for all to see. So if Carrick doesn't get that United job, I hope it's Glasner. I really do.
Yeah, they were. Did you see Ismail Sarr? I think he's got 15 or 16 this season. But the last second of the game when he missed a open goal, no goalkeeper in sight, hit the post for his hat-trick. Quite some miss that was. So they play Fiorentina next. Mainz Strasbourg. Rayo Vallecano versus AEK Athens. And Shakhtar Donetsk versus AZ Alkmaar. 4 games where you go, what is the point for watching that? So,
yeah, the big news story of the week. So, I mean, or do you want to run through European action, James? Not European, in terms of stuff for the weekend.
Let's just talk about AFCON.
Let's talk about AFCON. So, AFCON's interesting in as much as it feels like months and months ago now, we had Senegal winning that incredible match against Morocco 1-0 after extra time. Obviously, Senegal did leave the pitch of play for, was it 17 minutes, I think it was, or something in that vicinity. And it's been decided that because they left the pitch, they've effectively forfeited the match, and a 3-0 victory has been awarded to Morocco on the back of it. And just as a side note, and I don't know if it's a coincidence, James, but Morocco are one of the 6 joint hosts for the 2030 World Cup. I'm sure that has nothing to do with this sort of decision.
And the next AFCON is next summer, 2027, I think it is, in 14 months' time or 15 months' time. Not a good look for African football whatsoever. So, yeah. Well, they're not going to hand their trophy back either. They said no trophy, no winners' medals are going back. So it's all a bit of a mess. And it's just complete randomly to do it as well, like 8:30 in the middle of the week as well, when Champions League football's going on as well. It was just odd. But yeah.
Try and bury the bad news, James, when no one's watching.
Yeah, the other bit of big news this week is the GOAT. Lionel Messi, 900 career goals. So he's only about 60 behind Ronaldo. So some of the stats of this are quite ridiculous, I thought. So he's got 756 are from his left foot, 110 are from his right foot, 30 times with his head, and 4 other goals like hip or groin or whatever it is. He scored 176 from outside the box, including 70 free kicks. His career high was 10 in one season free kicks from outside the box. 10. Ridiculous. 60 hat-tricks. He scored 672 goals for Barcelona, the most ever by a player at a single club. 115 for Argentina. 82 for Inter Miami's current club, and 32 for PSG. He once scored 21 games in a row for Barcelona. He scored 7% of Barcelona's total goals ever in their history, over a course of 17 seasons at Barcelona. In 2022, the World Cup, he scored in every round. And the record that I don't think will ever be beaten. He scored 91 goals in a calendar year once, beating Gerard Müller's record of 85 for Bayern Munich. 91 in a calendar year. Quite frankly, absolutely ridiculous. He's just, in my view, the best ever player I've ever seen live. I never saw, obviously, Maradona live, never saw Pele live, but for me, Messi is a by far better player than Cristiano Ronaldo. It's just a joy. When I went to go and watch him for Barcelona, I was lucky enough to see him a few times for Barcelona. Absolutely ridiculous talent. It's scary how good he was. Just some of those 900 career goals. It's remarkable. He can do everything, that lad. Absolutely everything.
Apart from tracking back, James. He is an incredible player. I mean, there's no getting away from it. And I think what's been interesting in the last few years, how a lot of people were sort of on the fence as to whether it was him or Ronaldo. But I think a lot of people would be team Messi now.
He can just do everything. He's just a better footballer than Cristiano. Ronaldo is a fantastic footballer, don't get me wrong. Brilliant goal scorer. But Messi, just on the ball, just the ability to do anything, it's just frightening. Free kicks. I mean, the one thing he's not actually great at is penalties. It's ridiculous. I don't know what it is. He can stick the ball in top corner from free kicks. But yeah, 900 career goals. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so before we touch on the upcoming Premier League Carabao Cup, what European action, Scottish action, Championship action do we have this week, James?
Yeah, so let's just run through the Championship kind of thing quickly. There were some games in the midweek, wasn't there, where Watford beat Wrexham 2-1. Southampton beat Norwich Wednesday night 1-0 to move up to 6th in the Championship. So tonight you've got a game. You've got Preston versus Stoke, which is 8 o'clock Friday night. Tomorrow, though, you've got some big games at 12:30. Big game is Ipswich, who are in third against Millwall. They host Millwall at 12:30. You have Blackburn, who are fighting relegation. Obviously, they're at home to Middlesbrough at the same time. And in the evening, the league leaders, Coventry, go down to South Wales and play Swansea at 5:15. Other games of note, Southampton play Oxford and Watford play Leicester. So some big games is coming to the end of the season, obviously, there. And some big teams are fighting not to get relegated. It does look like Coventry have won that title and they're coming up under Frank Lampard. Obviously, they lost last Saturday, but Swansea won't be an easy game for them tomorrow night either. So, yeah, I do like the 12:30 games on a Saturday if there's no Premier League games to watch. But there is a Premier League game tomorrow. In Spain, La Liga, one game tonight, Villarreal, Sociedad. Barcelona are at home to Rayo Vallecano at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. Random time to play football in Spain at 1 o'clock. And it is the Madrid derby. Sunday night, Real Madrid play Atletico Madrid. Sunday night, 8 o'clock UK time. Big news from that is that Thibaut Courtois is out injured. Looks like he's out injured for 4 to 6 weeks with a muscle injury. This is obviously the last game before international break, but he'll probably miss both legs of the Champions League quarterfinals. He came off at half-time in midweek, so he's out injured. Mbappe came back for a cameo on Tuesday night, and Bellingham is probably back fit as well. He's back in the England squad obviously as well. Serie A, you have AC Milan play Torino tomorrow night, Saturday. Juventus are at home to Sassuolo in the evening. Fiorentina play Inter Milan on Sunday night because obviously Fiorentina were in the European action last night. And there's a game tonight, actually. Calgary play Napoli tonight as well. Bundesliga, Leipzig play Hoffenheim tonight. Munich are at home to Berlin tomorrow. So it'd be interesting to see what team Munich put out. Because I do like Munich's team. I've got some really good players. You know, Elise, Kane, Musiala, Diaz, the young lad Lenekal, Parlovic, the midfielder. So they're a good side, Munich. Very good side. Dortmund, Hamburg and Augsburg versus Stuttgart, which might keep my eye on Sunday because the rumours about Hoynes that we talked about for Liverpool. And in Scotland, we have the title race, obviously, after Hearts losing last week. I think they play... Hearts play tomorrow. They're at home to Dundee tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Rangers are at home to Aberdeen at 5:45 on Saturday. And Celtic go to Dundee United on Sunday at 12:30. The other bit of big news in Scotland is Kasper Schmeichel has got a career-threatening shoulder injury. He is 39 now. He's come out and said that he might have to retire. It sounds like it's pretty serious. 2 operations, everything, basically reconstructed his shoulder. And at 39, that's quite a long way back for him. So, yeah.
So just quickly on that. So what's interesting about that is that what it means is a young Finnish lad called Sinisalo is playing for them and has actually played pretty well for Celtic. But he was at Villa for a very long time. He used to keep getting shipped out on loan. So someone sort of kept an eye on. He's pretty highly regarded. I mean, Celtic signed him permanently last summer. But it's just interesting to see how he's done. Because it's not like Schmeichel was tearing up, pulling up any trees when he was playing. He looked very much at the back end of his career.
Yeah, he was. He was kind of dropped as well, wasn't he? So Celtic, just looking at the market, they are now favourites for the Scottish Premiership. Head of Hearts and Rangers, who are Hearts and Rangers, yeah.
So Premier League, tonight we have a game. I do like it when you have Friday night games, Monday night games. It's been a feast of football this week. We have Bournemouth, Man United tonight. I think quite an interesting game in that I think Bournemouth are always quite good fun to watch. How good is this Man United team? $1 million question. I'm still not massively convinced by them, if I'm honest. I think the only worry I'd have for Bournemouth a little bit is United are so much better when teams come and play against them. This Bournemouth team isn't going to sit deep. They will press United, and we saw when these two teams played first time round, it ended up being a crazy game. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something crazy again tonight.
4-4, wasn't it? And both keepers didn't really cover themselves in any glory at the time.
And I think the thing I would say about it is both teams are in a bit of a different place to where they are now. So So Bournemouth were towards the end of that really poor run that they had. And then United, obviously, it was pre-Carrick.
Yeah, it all bit of team use for United. Carrick said that it won't be fit probably for the end of the season, so no Dorgu either. So they've still got that issue on the left-hand side, Man United, with no pace down that side. So yeah, it could be a fun game to watch. Friday night's games are always good. There should be a Friday night Premier League game. I don't understand why there isn't. It should be a regular occurrence.
Well, particularly when teams have had... There's no reason why. The only proviso is that it's not a team who's played in Europe. You still come up with plenty of interesting games.
Yep, and this is Man United's last game until Monday the 13th of April, when they play Leeds at home on an 8 o'clock game, which we talked about. They're not going to play for the best part of 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. Crazy.
Now, you touched on something last week in terms of, will they be rusty after 10 days off? After 24 days, whatever, you will be rusty. But you also got no excuses. Almost by then they'll have no injuries. They'll be so fresh. You've got no excuses now. Saturday lunchtime, Brighton, Liverpool. It's going to be a tricky game for Liverpool. Coming off, I know it ended up being an easy Champions League win, but it was a big game. I think had to be bang up for it against Galatasaray when you were 1-0 down going into that home leg. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of fatigue almost in this, in this Brighton game. Brighton, tough team to play against. And obviously you've beaten them twice this year. But I think the games are closer probably than the scorelines suggested.
Yeah, the home game was a basketball game. Could have easily been 7-5 kind of thing rather than what it was. I'm going to get pelted here and I don't care about it. If you're playing Champions League football on a Wednesday night, you should not be playing the 12:30 game on a Saturday. It's absolute nonsense.
Particularly not when you have other teams who can be playing that game.
Correct. That game could have gone to extra time as well.
You could have Leeds Brentford.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously no one wants to watch Fulham Burnley, so that's why that's not the 12:30 game. I think one of the problems is they're so desperate to fit in the number of required games for each teams, and if you've got the 12:30 slot for TV purposes, is you don't want Fulham Burnley. If you're honest, you always much rather take any of the big six or big five.
Sure, I understand, but you should not be allowed. I know they've changed it. If you play away in Europe, you can't play on the 12:30 game, so it's moved to 8 o'clock. So they can move the game on TNT to 8 o'clock. There's no excuses why not. Because Man City played Newcastle last Saturday at 8 o'clock. It's complete nonsense. It doesn't. Why are Liverpool expected to... That game could have gone to extra time, right? And penalties. Could have finished at 10:30 on Wednesday night. And then you're expecting players to go and play 12:30 on a Saturday. It's nonsense. It is a tough game. Obviously, news out. Mo Salah's out injured with a groin injury. How long he's injured for, not sure. But he came off. When he comes off, he's injured midweek. So yeah, he was brilliant on midweek. I know he missed the penalty, but he was just got closer to, as I talked about it. Arne Slot, just have a word with yourself. But anyway, yeah, it's a tough game for Liverpool. After the Lord Mayor's show, can you get back up for the game? And that's where you haven't seen it for Liverpool for a year. Not this season, it's been for a year. They've not been good.
That would be my big question with these players, is they can get up for your Real Madrids or crucial home games in Champions Leagues. Can you get up for Brighton away at 12:30 on a Saturday lunchtime?
Tough game.
I mean, I don't think you need to dwell on Fulham Burnley too long, do we, James?
No. Too much time already talked about them.
I think unders are potentially interesting in that game, for what it's worth.
In terms of what? In terms of goals or no? You reckon there will be goals?
No, I don't. I don't think there'll be many goals. I think what will happen is that Burnley will sit back, as they always do under Parker. I think Fulham will pass the ball around side to side at the back, and there won't be much in the way of goal mouth action. And Burnley will be quite happy. But, I mean, who knows? Craven Cottage see some crazy things. Everton, Chelsea. Now this is an interesting game because I know Everton have a poor home record this year, but I think Everton showed against Arsenal that they are always so well organised. It's a tough place to go, tough team to beat. I think Chelsea, it's tough to take that sort of beating they got on Tuesday night and it not to leave any sort of physical scars. You're running ragged against Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough game for Chelsea.
Injury concerns at right back again because no James is good. So good. Mario Götze.
James is injured again, is he? Who knew? Who knew James?
Chalobah obviously did his ankle injury. Thankfully, it's not serious for him. So he only looks like a 4 to 6 week injury. There was some TNT didn't show any highlights of the injury, thankfully, but it could have been a lot worse.
But
Sanchez in goal because Jorgensen injured.
But problem with Chalobah being out is he's been their pretty much number one centre back. They already look all over the place there when you watch them play. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it all pans out in terms of team selections.
Yeah, it's not easy for Chelsea. I know Everton have lost 7 at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, which is I still find funny anyway. But yeah, it'd be a game where Everton go, you know what? If we can get a win here, we're pretty high up in the table. We've got a chance of European football next season. Especially if you said that if Villa win the Europa League and finish in the top 5, there's an extra place. So
that extra place doesn't always filter down, by the way.
It doesn't filter down, but they still got chances of getting in the Europa League this season, finishing 8th or 9th, kind of thing, or Conference League. So yeah.
Well, that Brentford result really helped them drawing with Wolves.
Yeah.
And then Leeds Brentford on Saturday evening. So this is the 8 o'clock game. So this is interesting from a Leeds perspective, in as much as they have to start winning some games in terms of the relegation. Obviously Tottenham play Forest, West Ham have got Villa, but Leeds, if they want to, they're only 3 points clear of the trouble, and they could, if they don't start picking up points in these sorts of games, you really begin to worry for them a little bit. Things could get ugly very quickly for them.
Yeah, it was a shocking result against Sunderland last time out at home, wasn't it? The 1-0 loss. So, yeah, they need to get something out of the game. You can't afford to lose, definitely not. Just for confidence levels.
And then we have Newcastle Sunderland at 12 o'clock. This should be a good game. Although the last time these two teams met, obviously I know Sunderland won 1-0. I think I might be right in saying it had the lowest XG recorded of any game. Certainly this season, one of the all-time lowest XGs of any game. Ugly. And I suspect Newcastle will... It's just what Newcastle need, having been run round at Nou Camp ragged, is have the, Sunderland coming at them big time.
I actually think it's not a bad game for Newcastle. I know it sounds silly, but it's a local derby. You can't not get up for the game. If this was like Burnley at home or Fulham at home or something like that, after just being spanked in Barcelona kind of thing, it could be quite hard to get up. But there's no excuses not to get up. I know it's a Sunday at 12 o'clock, so the players are going to have to get up at ridiculous times to hydrate and fuel themselves for Newcastle. But I just can't not see a Newcastle win there. Sunderland are just coasting at the moment, kind of thing. They're being poor recently.
I don't know. I do worry for Newcastle. It's been such a sustained run of difficult matches, really difficult matches. I just wonder, at some point, physically broken almost, that team, because they haven't got a huge squad in terms of players that Howe trusts when you throw in injuries like Bruno and obviously Miley's been out as well. You look at that midfield. Obviously, they're not going to have Tonali probably either. I just wonder if they're just absolutely exhausted. Whereas
One
Sunderland,
last one last big push though, because there's obviously 2 weeks of international break, and then there's not 3 weeks to the next Premier League game kind of thing. So it's one last push for them before you have 3 weeks off.
I did hear the Barcelona game described as the biggest game in Newcastle's recent history by one of the commentators. I thought, really interesting. It was probably Glenn.
Yeah. I just think Newcastle will come out and try and blow Sunderland away. I think Eddie Howe will try and do that 20-25 minutes of just ultra pressing again. You haven't seen it for a while, but why not just like try and get ahead, get the crowd up for everything like that. So yeah, even though they will be up, but you know what I mean. I think that's the way that game will go. I think Newcastle will try and come out flying out the blocks.
Sunday, some big games as well. So Villa West Ham, particularly in terms of this relegation. I mean, West Ham played well against Villa early in the season when they were actually struggling a little bit. Villa often struggle in these games against some of the smaller teams, but it is important for Villa that they actually get a win at some point in the league. If they do have aspirations of that top five, you're playing, a team still in the relegation zone. It's a game that Villa have to be winning, and it's going to be tough against West Ham.
Yeah, they've improved a lot, West Ham, and Nuno knows how to set a team up. Hope he's just not very. Would he be negative? He probably will be negative and say, "Come and break us down, then," and then we'll try and counter-attack you. Is Somerville back fit?
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look into that game yet. I don't know. I do think it's one of those situations where West Ham would take a point. You look through your fixture list. Your away games against, say, teams in the top 5 or 6. Anytime you can get a point, you're happy with. The problem for West Ham is that if either Tottenham or Forest win later in the day, or Leeds win as well, West Ham could suddenly be looking in that much more trouble again. So just touching on that game, Tottenham Forest doesn't get much tastier than that, James, on Sunday afternoon.
No, that is the game. Well, it's great. If you want to watch your fix of football on Sunday, you've got Tyne Derby. Then you've got this 6-point relegation. Huge game. Absolutely.
What do you mean, James? You're going to be watching Villa West Ham over this, aren't you?
I'll go and watch London Broncos Rugby League on Sunday. No. This is massive. This is... You can't underestimate how big a game this is for both clubs. It's just enormous. It's just a ridiculously huge game. And Tottenham, have they turned the corner the last couple of results? As he said, I think that result for them on Wednesday night was huge. Just to get the monkey off the back, they've won a game of football under Tudor. The noise, the press can't come out today. Ourselves can't come out today. No win in 7. He's not won. No new manager bounce, etc. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's bought some time, Tudor, at Tottenham, but that might end on Sunday night. If they lose, he's out of a job, definitely.
So what I always think with these one-off games that are so important like this is...
The cup final.
If you're that team, fan of that team, you just hope that you get those refereeing decisions. You hope you have that little bit of luck. If there's deflections around, you hope you get that little bit of luck in terms of fine margins, whether it be VAR decisions, offside decisions. You hope that your strikers can score a wonder goal. All those types of things. And you're just praying that this is the week where, particularly if you've had some bad luck in recent times, that this is your lucky day and, you can take your chances. Because as you say, I mean, it's difficult to describe how big this is for both teams. Do you think...
So
Go on.
So I'm just checking out who's the referee for the game this week. I'm just trying to check out for the referee. It's the worst referee in the Premier League.
Jared?
No, Michael Oliver is the referee for Spurs versus Nottingham Forest on Sunday. Absolutely terrible. Chris Kavanagh is the VAR, and Tony Harrington is the assistant VAR. No, Chris Kavanagh is the fourth official. Pointless. Tony Harrington's VAR, and the assistant VAR is Craig Taylor. Michael Oliver is the referee, the person who absolutely loves himself, even more than any other referee going. So yeah, you just hope that we're not talking Monday about this referee again. But yeah, it's a cup final for both teams, and I do worry for Forest. We talked about it. They don't have any goals in that team. Can't score goals. They create a load of chances. They do create so many chances, but Tottenham have Richarlison in form, and Solanke can score goals, and it's amazing those two will score goals. Richarlison arguably should have had a hat-trick last Sunday at Anfield. So, you just don't know though, because they're both bad teams, let's be honest. They're a reason why where they are at the moment. But if one team loses...
Almost sounds cliche, James, but that first goal...
If there is a first... Would Forest take a point?
Well, that was the question I was going to ask before you were looking at the referee. I suspect they would. And the reason being is that it keeps Tottenham down there with them. I suspect, and doesn't do them any damage, Forest. And, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to go and win your home games, I think, in this relegation run-in. You go to other teams and get a point on your travels, it's not the end of the world. So I think if I was Forest, I would take a draw quite happily, I think. Take your chances.
Especially when at the same time it's obviously West Ham are Villa, aren't they, at 2:15. So it's the same time, so you can't kind of alter the way you play. I think they would take a point. Will they set up to take a point? I think that's quite a dangerous thing to do. It's I mean, as you said, that first goal. It's if there is a goal, obviously. But yeah, because yeah, it's just tough. Tough one to call. It really is a tough one to call.
But that also adds to the intrigue, right? So it's not a big favourite against it's not a level game, but it should be a very competitive game. And then we obviously have Arsenal started the quadruple on Sunday afternoon. The only surprise is that they actually have to play Manchester City. I'm surprised they're not playing someone like Port Vale in the final. And this is massive for Arsenal. I mean, I regard the league as almost wrapped up, but, you know, Arteta's clearly felt the pressure in recent years of not having won a trophy since that very early FA Cup, which, you know, didn't really belong to him as such. This is, you know, obviously I know they've won a couple of Community Shields in between. I know how much he values them, but to get this, you know, was it 5 years since they won a trophy? You know, to get that monkey off his back would be huge. And I think, you know, you could easily see them winning three competitions this year if they can win this one. If they lose this one, then you could easily see them only winning, you know, the league, for example. It just feels like, in terms of self-belief and everything else, it feels massive.
Massive game for Arsenal Football Club. As you said, not won anything of any note. COVID FA Cup was not his team, as you said. Charity Shield is what it is, a pre-season friendly. Man City aren't in great form. So going back to Arsenal, we know they're back for, well, if Timber's back fit, obviously Ben White played in midweek. And then
it's okay, James. You can just bring your £50 million right back in off the bench.
Yes, exactly. That they bought as a centre back, but realised you can't head the ball, so they moved him to right back. As back as they will play, he scored a wonder goal in the midweek. Odegaard's not fit. Who they play up front will be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they have Havertz up front. I really wouldn't. Instead of Gyökeres, Saka will be on the right, and imagine Trossard on the left, kind of thing. It's just more the Man City team and what system Man City play. Are they going to continue? So they didn't play. They dropped Semenyo, didn't they, in the week? I'd imagine he'll come back in. Cherky, for me, has got to play in that team. They've got to get legs in midfield. They can't go into that game, Man City, with Bernardo Silva and Rodri as your two midfielders. You just can't do it. You're going to get overrun and overpowered by Rice, Zubimendi and Eze. You're not going to get... You have to either play Nico Gonzalez or Reinders in that midfield. Because you've got to have someone who can take the workload off Bernardo, who is a good player, don't get me wrong. But he's not a centre midfielder in the Premier League. He's too small, not quick enough.
Well, no, but the problem I have with Bernardo Silva is simply that you...
Or you play O'Reilly in there.
No, but there's a time and place for your Bernardo Silvas of the world, right? Been an incredible player for City. But this current version of Bernardo Silva, is he a more creative option than Cherky? Not for me. And I think Cherky's brilliant. And you look in terms of the balance of that team, and if you're saying you can only have one of Cherky or Bernardo Silva type of thing, I would take Cherky all day long. And I think it's we're not far away from a situation where Bernardo Silva shouldn't be. I said this before the midweek game. I think it was on Monday. You get into a time point where it's almost time to move on from Bernardo Silva. I think he looks amazing in a City team when City are controlling possession. They're the dominant team, just passing the ball around. But we've seen way too many times this season that midfield just completely disappear in second halves of games. And you look at it and you trying to understand what's actually happened. And one of the problems is having the likes of Bernardo Silva, as you say, is one of your, meant to be your second or third most combative midfielders. And he's just not that. That's not him.
Yeah. I don't think Mark Gay's available. I think he's actually cup tied, so I don't think he's available. So Ruben Diaz, well, he came off in midweek as well. So who knows who's going to play centre backs? No idea.
Kuznov will play.
Kuznov will play. Well, can he repeat his? He does have a mistake in him. We talked about it to him, blue in the face about him. So they'll play. I'm sure they'll play El Nouri left back, because I do like him as a defender. So will they play Nick O'Reilly? He's just seemed to.
Well, they should do, because he has that physicality.
Yeah.
You have to match Arsenal physically.
Yes. This is horses for horses game kind of thing where you need to match them and you need to change the way you play. They did it at the Emirates, didn't they? When they just sat back after the Harden goal kind of thing. I can't imagine they're doing that again. But they might say to Arsenal, go on then, you have the ball. You try and break us down and we'll try and counter-attack you with Semenyo, Cherky and Harden kind of thing. And try and get Harden to occupy, which he is very good at times, occupying Saliba and Gabriel, who we know at times can be bullied. Let's not forget that. Those two up against a big, strong centre forward.
If I was City, I'd want to sit deep and ping balls over. I always think against Arsenal, your best chance of success is the ball into the channels or over the top. So whether that be into a Haaland, into the channels, might well be a Doku playing, whether you can get him out wide, use his pace, because Arsenal end up with these four centre-backs, and the one thing they're not brilliant at is against pace. And I do think they can be got at.
So what are you looking at? You're looking at a Man City midfield. You play Rodri, Nick O'Reilly, Cherky, and then play Doku one side, Semenyo the other side, and play Haaland up front? Or was that?
It feels a bit aggressive. Potentially.
I think if you want that outlet, I think Doku has been their most creative outlet. He was good in midweek, and so is Trent Alexander-Arnold, by the way. And he had a lot of help from Valverde. But Doku does give you that outlet, does give you that ability to beat a player. And if he's up against Ben White, who's got no pace compared to Timber kind of thing.
Well, I mean that's the thing about Timber. I mean, whether Timber's fit or not will be massive, because he's a very, very good one-on-one defender.
Yeah.
Generally. And they would miss him quite a bit. So it's going to be fascinating. I'm intrigued to see what Pep does. The one thing, you touched on how successful Pep's been, or not successful in the Champions League. I mean, obviously domestically he's been incredible. I'm always left just feeling with Pep in these last couple of years. I couldn't be more underwhelmed by him in terms of his tactics and the way he's trying to do things. and I'm just left with these question marks as to whether is the success he's had just because he's had the best teams by a country mile, the biggest budgets, you know, how good a how good a manager would he be at a different club? A lesser club, a team that's eighth or ninth in the Premier League. How good would he be? And I really, with some of the tactics and stuff going on, I have some serious doubts.
He's been saying it for a while. I think he's this nonsense that people talk about him being the best manager ever. It's just absolute nonsense. He is clearly a very good manager, but this way he supposedly reinvented football and all this business, absolute nonsense. So yeah, you just can't second guess him at the moment because he went through that period, didn't he, in January and February where he didn't make any changes, and then suddenly he's making changes left, right, and centre, and yeah, you just don't know. They've got to give Haaland more chances to score. That's one thing they've got to do, and maybe that goal in the midweek helps him. Who knows?
I mean, that was a scuff as well.
It doesn't make a difference though. Sometimes who makes just like who knows? So,
but it should be
again,
good watch because I think there is quite a bit of jeopardy there for Arsenal in terms of what it means. So you see,
kind of a free hit for City.
What? Sorry.
It's kind of a free hit for City.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Although what you find with City very quickly is, if the league's done, Champions League's done, they've got you in the FA Cup. This might be the only chance they have to actually win something this year.
Yeah.
Has Guardiola had any seasons where he's not he can't have had many seasons where he's not won anything.
Last season, what did they win? Can't remember. No, it's not many.
Well, Palace won the FA Cup. Newcastle won the Carabao Cup.
Didn't win anything last season yet. So it could be 2 back-to-back seasons at City not winning anything. Is that a reason?
Go and spend another 500 million, Pep.
Is that a reason why his house is for sale apparently in Manchester and that Xavi Alonso could be taking over in the summer? Wouldn't surprise me one iota that. Would not surprise me.
Well, interesting football, James, coming up. And yeah, let's have a look on Monday and see what's happened.
Yeah, there's 4 good games of football on Sunday. Really good games. Including the Madrid derby, 8 o'clock, will be a game I'll be watching, yeah. Good fun.
Right, let's call it a day.
All right, speak to you on Monday, everyone. Cheers, bye-bye.